like to welcome everybody to our joint meeting tonight of the Lake County Liberty Coalition with the Mentor 912 Project. Kim Laurie here is the president of 912 Project at Mentor, and I'm the executive director for Lake County Liberty Coalition. So we'd like to welcome everybody here this evening. We're going to open with a word of prayer, followed by Pledge of Allegiance, and Dave Lindros is going to lead us in both of those. So if you would please stand for both of those.
Thanks, John. Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, in Jesus' name, we come to your presence. Thank you for all of the blessings you give us daily. Thank you for Jesus for having completed the work for our salvation. When you said it is finished, you nailed all past requirements to the cross and gave us access by faith to the Spirit of God. Thank you that you do not turn your eyes from your people. You are careful to watch over us and even tell us to cast all our cares on you, for you care for us. In so doing, Lord, we ask for guidance to know how to walk amongst all the evil happening in our government. We know our Constitution will not work for those in power now, and only a righteous people can restore what has been taken. We will not despair, but we will hope in you as you lead us every day. For no matter what, you are our God, and you will always care for us. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dave. How many of you were at the Lake County Liberty Coalition picnic a week and a half ago or so? Okay. Anybody remember the story I told about Ted Cruz? Okay. Well, if you heard it, if you remember it, you're going to get a refresher. And those of you that didn't hear it, you'll hear it for the first time. Has anybody read Ted Cruz's book, Time for Truth? Okay. In the first chapter of that book, he talks about the topic of mendacity. And when I had to go look that word up, because I wasn't sure what it was, and I thought, mendacity, that's probably something good. Well, if you think a habitual liar is something good, then it's good. But in most instances, that would not be good, and it would especially not be good coming from our elected officials. So this took place back in 2014 in February. And that was back when we were facing a debt ceiling crisis because we were spending money too fast. And the president wanted to get a clean debt ceiling bill. Clean meaning that there were no strings attached to it. So the Republicans were thinking, at least in public, were thinking that we should be able to get something out of this in exchange for passing a debt ceiling bill. Mitch McConnell went on TV on Sunday before, and he was talking about that as well. But it turns out that John Boehner in the House passed a clean debt ceiling bill, raising the debt ceiling, and without any strings attached. So it was up to the Senate then. The Senate has the Republicans, there were 45 in the Senate at the time, 55 Democrats, and senators, the Republican senators have a joint lunch that they have. I think we pay for that lunch. And it takes place on that particular day. It was in the Lyndon Baines Johnson room of the Capitol building. And the leaders typically present some information to them, and on that day in February, they presented the plan for how they were going to pass the debt ceiling bill. The plan was this, that all the senators, the Republicans and the Democrats, by voice vote, would approve reducing the number of votes required to pass the debt ceiling bill from 60 to 50. And they can do that, as long as it's a voice vote and there's 100% agreement that they want to do that. Then, the bill would only require 50 votes, and all the Democrats can vote for it, all 55 of them. All the 45 Republicans then can vote against it and tell their people at home, we were opposed to that and we didn't vote for it, after they allowed them to get it. So, they presented the plan. There was one senator who raised his hand and said, there's no universe in which I can go along with this. That was Ted Cruz. And he said it was a really difficult time for him, because he had all kinds of senators coming up to him. They were getting, he said it was the most angry he's ever seen the senators, telling him that that's not the way we do it. We do one thing here, and then we tell the people at home something else. There was one senator who stood with Ted Cruz out of the other 44. That was Mike Lee. Okay? Now, in the book, he doesn't mention any of the other senators' names, but that got my curiosity up, because I want to know who else was there that was willing to go along with this. Rand Paul was in the Senate at that time, as was Marco Rubio. Now, I don't know exactly where they stood on this, if they just didn't agree with it but were just being quiet. But what I know is that I want my elected officials to stand up for what's right, even if they have to face a whole slew of Republican leaders and so forth. Now, the cost or the price of going against the leadership is kind of two major things. Number one, campaign funds for re-election. You don't get them. And number two, that you get what was called public flogging. That there are all kinds of leaks about you that are negative, and they go out into the press. But the main point of this is that it's very important that we elect officials who have character and are willing to stand up for what's right. And lead into that a little bit with one of the candidate that is running for Congress from the 14th district here, Matt Lynch. And the reason I mentioned him is because he has faced exactly the same thing in Columbus and has stood up to it. So, with that, I'm going to end my little talk on mendacity, and I'm going to turn it over to Kim Laurie, who is going to introduce our speaker for this evening.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
If this guy looks familiar to you at all, we had him speak at our 9/12 meeting maybe a year ago or so, and he has agreed to join us tonight to discuss what we can do locally about illegal immigration. If you guys have been paying attention at all with our Lake County elected officials, you'll hear all of them saying, well, that's a federal issue, there's nothing we can do about it. So tonight we're going to learn a few things that maybe we can do about it if we elect the right people. And so if you could please give a warm welcome to Mr. Bob Najbalski. He is the Northeast United States Field Director for the Federation for American Immigration Reform.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. Thanks to everybody for being here and having me here. Before we get started, on the immigration issue, it's one of those issues, I can't say enough about how important it is to address it. This is as dangerous to us and as threatening as somebody pointing a loaded gun at our head. Because what's going on right now in our government, all related to illegal immigration, with all the other stuff going on, Common Core, Agenda 21, the Iran nuclear deal, this is a big threat and something we can do about. We're going to get into that. Having said that, anybody that talks about illegal immigration out loud, like we're doing here, unless we're surrounded by friends like we are here, and I hope you're all my friends. I keep looking for the guy doing this, but and especially if you're running for a public office at any level and you talk about this, your head is way out of the foxhole, and it takes a lot of courage. A couple of weeks ago, Kim and I traded some very lengthy emails where she was asking some pretty tough questions on this issue, and I just applauded the fact that somebody really wants to know about this and maybe put it into action. So because of that, about almost a year ago now, I was down on the border with 40 sheriffs. These are sheriffs from all over the country, from Boston, New York, and showing them see the problem here, it's coming to you. And while I was there, I had 1 foot in the United States and 1 foot in Mexico, because you can do that there when there's no fence. And I reached down and I scooped up some good old American soil that's right inside our border. And this is why I do what I do. And Kim, I want to make you the keeper of the dirt. That was my last bottle of U.S. soil right at the Mexican border. I worked for the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Prior to joining them in 2009, I was a deputy sheriff for 30 years and got involved in the immigration issues that way by arresting illegal aliens. Kind of made sense at the time, and it still does. This PowerPoint is the first time I've ever used a PowerPoint. I'm amazed that I was able to press that button just now. I usually just talk off notes or impromptu about this issue. So we're going to go through this. I got to pace myself. We're going to give an overview of immigration, some of the stuff that's going on. You need to know what's going on so you can make up your mind if you want to get involved and how you can get involved, which we will address in this. Right now, we admit over 1 million people a year legally into this country. That is more than the rest of the world combined. We take in more into the United States legally. Extremely generous. And there is now a school of thought out there that it might be too generous at this point. Because resources can only go so far and not so far. So FAIR does promote an immigration timeout at some point. But right now, that's what's going on. There's two sides to the immigration debate. Side A, it's self-explanatory, and side B, which is also self-explanatory. You're going to fall on one side of those. Very few people are in the middle about this. I understand it can be a humanitarian issue. I understand we're dealing with families and kids and that type of thing. But we're a nation of law. We exist because of the rule of law. We have to put American citizens' interests first in legal immigrant. We have to be first. And there's nothing wrong with that. Who comes first in your home is your family. Who comes first in this country? American citizens. Every other country's out there looking out for themselves. Mexico is insisting that we take everybody that's coming across that border. They're insisting. They said our laws are cruel and unusual punishment, our immigration laws. Did you see the headline today, what Mexico's doing? I lived in California. I was with Los Angeles Sheriff's Department for 15 years. And we used to go down to San Diego and walk across the bridge into Tijuana. So I could buy my relatives fake Seiko watches where the E and the I are flipped. It was a great deal. You now have to show a passport to walk into Mexico and visit for a day. And if you're going to be there longer than a week or two, you have to pay money. And Mexico says that they're just trying to get a hold of their border. So they're all about a secure border, showing paperwork and paying fees to come in. And this just came out today. And look what they're asking us to do. We all know, and I'm preaching to the choir here, illegal immigration affects our jobs, medical education, public benefits. We're going to get into public safety and national security. And the thing is, Side A promotes their position with common sense and facts. That's what we do. It's common sense. And how can you argue with some of the commonsensical stuff that's out there? We are the rule of law. If it's illegal, you get in trouble. Good versus, I mean, there's not a lot of gray there. And fortunately, the majority of Americans still feel that we have to enforce our immigration laws. They want to secure the border. Where these people are at when we have big events, like in Paynesville or whatnot, I don't know. But according to the polls, the American people still support us controlling our borders. Side B, they ignore and deny breaking the law. They really don't care about our interests as American citizens. We have to continually to adapt and bend over. They deny the public safety issues. I mean, some of the stuff I hear is just terrible. That thing that happened in Concord Township just recently. And then somebody from the other side, from side B, came out and said, well, he wasn't a random illegal alien. You know, so don't blame illegal aliens, because he was here waiting for his green card. That's like me breaking into your house and waiting a couple of months for you to invite me in while I stand in your living room. Sorry, he is still an illegal alien.
Yep.
And also, they tend to be, and you know what I'm going to say, immigration, the issue, from my point of view, isn't about race. It isn't about Mexicans. There, I said the word Mexicans. I'm not against Mexicans. I love their culture, their food. I'm not a people hater. When I was arresting illegal aliens, I arrested aliens from over 39 different countries. We were equal opportunity deported when I was up and running. The other side, though, has made this a racial issue. Because how many groups have you seen out there advocating for Somalis? Or for Asians? Or for Polish people? No, it's all about Latino, 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 Latino. And which in their mind includes all Hispanic and Latinos. Right now. But when it comes right down to it, then the Mexicans tend to back off and say we don't like Central Americans or South Americans. It's crazy. All right. They're not the majority. Side B is not the majority, but they're very well organized. They're very well funded. They have our government on their side at this point in time. They have an open door policy at the White House. So a lot of things are going their way. Now, talking about the administration. Oh my God, he's got the camera pointed at yeah, sorry about that. I'm going to blow through these slides because this was several hours, long hours of typing. But what I'm going to try to illustrate here is what this administration has done since 2009 up until August of 2014 on dismantling. A lot of people think about the illegal immigration issues. They think, well, yeah, the borders are unsecured, people are coming in and he wants an amnesty. It's not. You have to understand just how hard this president and everybody he surrounds himself with is working to dismantle this country via immigration. It's amazing the time and the thought process that was put into this, and it's been a constant thing. This isn't one of the last two issues he's got to get taken care of before we don't have the election. I mean, before the election next year. All right, we're going to edit this thing, right? Anyway, it's amazing. Some of the stuff in red I've highlighted, and like I said, I'm going to blow through these slides. I do have one copy of all of this stuff in printed material I can leave if you guys want to take the time to Xerox and pass it out, but it's amazing what's going on. And I like to say that they do this, malice aforethought. It's a big term in the criminal justice world. That means you intended to do something bad. And I think that's what's going on with this whole immigration thing. Starting in 2009, February, he says he supports amnesty. They stopped worksite raids that year. They stopped going into factories and rounding people up because they didn't like that. They started rewriting, up until 2009, the federal enforcement agencies worked hand in hand with all of your local law enforcement agencies. They were all cops. They were all law enforcers. You had federal ones, you had state and local ones, and everybody worked together on the immigration issues. And the Obama administration identified very quickly they had to break that relationship. And we'll see how that evolves and what that comes down to. That's why you have a situation in Lake County where you have a law enforcement officer with his hands on an illegal alien. And then the answer was, well, we were ordered to let him go. Really? We're going to talk about that. Didn't have to happen. And they start thinking about sanctuary. USCIS is the United States Customs and the United States Citizens Immigration Services. They are the ones that do all the paperwork. They're the ones that when people legally immigrate to this country, these are the administrative people that do all the paperwork. They start talking about supporting amnesty. The Department of Justice starts threatening employers who are using E-Verify, which we're going to talk about. E-Verify is a system that you electronically verify that somebody is authorized to work in the United States. Real simple. Punch in the information that tells you this person can work here or this person cannot work here because they're here illegally. DOJ starts telling employers, you best not. Oh, and this ICE also started voting no confidence in the administration, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. The Obama administration refuses to sue sanctuary cities. Now, the sanctuary thing, and a lot of this started in Illinois, Cook County, Chicago. Crook, I'm sorry, forgot a consonant there. They were not honoring, they were ignoring the feds. When the feds said, hey, we're on our way, we need to come get this guy, they're like, and they kicked the guy loose. They weren't cooperating. John Morgan at the time said, well, I'm going to go in there and sue that city and start arresting some of these people that are in charge, and it never happened. DHS begins dismissing deportation cases. And then DHS started, there was memos being leaked, and we were able to get our hands on quite a bit of these, to where amnesty was starting to form on the lips of this administration. Okay. You can just take a look at a few of these. I'm just going to fast forward through some of them. In 11, I loved it when Obama said, this border is secure. And it was during one of his State of the Union addresses, he said it also, and he does that with that, and I hate this. Let me be clear, that whole thing. You're very clear, unfortunately, but yeah, the border is more secure than it's ever been. The Morton memos start coming out. And the Morton memos were basically under the direction of Big Sis, Secretary Napolitano. John Morton was issuing memos to ICE agents, starting to talk about prosecutorial discretion. In the past, if somebody was here illegally and ICE had their hands on them or had them within sight, it's a no-brainer. You're here illegal, you're gone. Put you in removal proceedings, and it was a great machine. It worked fantastic. Now we started telling these guys, let's start using some discretion. And what that basically boils down to, we're going to fast forward to what is going on today. Basically, when it comes to the feds wanting to enforce our immigration laws, why don't they just come out and say, we know you're here illegally, and we're going to wait until you murder somebody before we talk to you. It's sad. They don't afford me that kind of latitude with our laws as a United States citizen. I've got to obey them. And I guess without having to read all the stuff, like I said, I can give it to you, but if you could see, we're only in 2011 here, how much time, effort, work, and thought has gone into dismantling our immigration system. You keep hearing people say, and a lot of Republicans say this, well, we do have to reform it. We have to fix our broken immigration system. I mean, people are starting to say that all the time. We need to get the Latino vote. Really? Are they ever going to vote Republican anyway? Well, illegal aliens are already voting, and they're not voting Republican, I'll tell you that. Where was our system broken? What do we have to reform? It's been working fine. You know, all of this, a lot of this is just semantics, and it really frustrates me when I see House leadership. You know, when I listen to John Boehner talking about, yeah, well, we have to fix the system. What do you have to fix? It wasn't broken.
You mean John Bonehead?
There we go. Yeah. Well, I've tried to be a pain on him, but he hides so good right now. Right now, with Congress in recess, nobody knows where any of them are at.
How do you hide that neon face?
Yeah.
He's sticking his head in the sand.
There you go. It's good for the... Wow, one of my fillings must have fell off. Sheriff Joe was up and running pretty hard in this time, and Department of Justice took away his 287G powers. Does anybody not know what 287G is? 287G basically, this was Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is ICE. You've heard of ICE. They were formed after 9/11, where they took Customs and INS, merged them, and came up with ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Now they realized they don't patrol your neighborhoods. When I drove, it was a 3.5-hour drive today, I did not see one ICE vehicle patrolling our highways and byways. They realize cops are first responders on illegal aliens. They see them first, they encounter them first, and they let us know. So why not train these guys to be even better at doing that? And it became what they call a force multiplier. And it worked fantastic. Cops, local cops, state cops, working hand in hand with the feds. When I tell you about my task force later, you'll see how it worked just perfect. They started shutting down the 287G program because, again, they didn't want the state and local cops playing nice with the federal cops. And neither side liked this. Now, that's not so true today because there's a lot of cities in the United States that are sanctuary. Did you see the police chief of Dayton testifying before the committee a few weeks ago about sanctuary cities? So we do have police chiefs that are going over to the other side trying to sell things to you like, well, if we arrest illegal aliens, then they won't report crimes to us. We can't have that, can we? Well, how about the illegal alien picking up the phone and reporting the first crime they're aware of? Hey, I'm here illegally. That's not going to work. Anyway, they start, again, dismantling cooperation with the local law enforcement. We're in 2012. USCIS, this is important. Get to yes policy. When they process this paperwork, they run across things such as, you're a bad guy. You have a criminal record. You're a gang member. You deal drugs. You've got an arrest record. They were told, get to yes. Anything that would disqualify somebody from being approved to stay in this country, they were bypassing and just basically rubber stamping. It's almost hard to believe that this was going on in this country. They're defunding 287G, still shutting down cooperation with the locals. Department of Justice sues Sheriff Joe. I love Sheriff Joe. Unfortunately, he has pretty much outlived his effectiveness. He's getting up there in age. There's been some dementia talk and that kind of thing, but he is still my hero in the law enforcement world because he wasn't afraid. And to be honest with you, I'm very, very shocked that he didn't fall off a horse or something like that. You know what I mean?
Is he the one that was from Maricopa?
Maricopa County, Tent City, that whole thing. I liked it. He came up with a great idea. They had TVs out in the tents. And if the inmates wanted to watch TV, they had to power them by bicycling. He had them hooked up to those stationary bikes. And if you wanted to watch TV, and I could only imagine it was the smallest and weakest guy in the room that had to get up there and pedal it. But
Yeah, and they had to do it with pink underwear.
there you go. I cut down on the escapes. You're either naked or wearing pink, and neither one was a good option. Florida was addressing illegal aliens voting, and Eric Holder and his group came in and said, we're gonna sue you if you try to stop that. They said it was discriminatory. 2012, down here in August, this was a big one. This was the first pen and phone type action, DACA amnesty, deferred action for childhood arrivals. Now don't forget, childhood arrivals means anybody up until the age of, what is it, 30, 36? You didn't have to prove anything. You just had to say, I qualify for DACA amnesty. This was true on the border. If, let's say, a 21-year-old came across the border and was immediately apprehended by a Border Patrol agent, all he had to say was, I'm 21, my parents lived there, I was brought over when I was a kid. They don't have to prove anything, they don't have to show any ID. I qualify for DACA. They had to back off and let him go. I saw it firsthand, and this was in El Paso. So anyway, that was his first executive amnesty. And it's just, there's more now. Now there's DAPAs. We got DACAs and DAPAs and all kinds of stuff. Real ID, Homeland Security will not help any of the states comply with that. Illegal aliens were involved in the Obama campaign with their get out the vote activity. Nobody addressed that or cared about that. You know, nobody cared about Black Panthers keeping people away from voting.